We're back from the Combine, and yes, our nostrils have been cleaned out with the St. Elmo's shrimp cocktail sauce that you've seen online. Now we turn to, well, this week it's tags, trades, and practical analytics as we get ready as well for the full-fledged free agency. On this edition of Defending the Kingdom, of course, brought to you by Ticketmaster.
Mahomes in the pocket, he'll step up, he'll scramble 10, 5, Mahomes, diving touchdown, Kansas City.
Hi everyone, I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs, along with senior team reporter Matt McMullen. Have you recovered fully, or has your nasal cavity recovered fully from the St. Elmo's experience?
Yeah, I think I've recovered. You know, one thing I feel like I need to clarify is we put that video out of us doing the shrimp cocktail, which I think we should do more of those. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, but I think some people thought that it's just like a normal shrimp cocktail, and this was our first ever experience with like horseradish or shrimp cocktail. Their shrimp cocktail is like an atomic bomb. It's like 99% horseradish, so it's a little bit different. We've had shrimp cocktail before. This was like a different kind of experience. Just want to make sure that's out there.
And we've seen the comments, and people have weighed in on it. No, I like to make homemade shrimp cocktail. I have to make, we have it with my wife, it has to be two different versions because I do like the St. Elmo's kind of version, although it's never at the level of St. Elmo's, right?
It's gasoline.
like the LeBron of shrimp cocktail or the Mahomes, and then she has to have kind of a dumbed-down version. But anyway, it was good and fun. One of the things you did not see on camera, I'm going to show this, so it's great. Kelsey Tehan is one of our members of our social team, and she's super talented and great. Knows football very well. A Wisconsin Badger, proud Wisconsin Badger. And then we also have with us is Corbin Meyer. Corbin, who's a good friend, by the way, of Howard, Will Howard, the former K-State quarterback, now a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers, national champion of Ohio State. Anyway, she went to with Villanova. All right, she had done this before.
She knew the drill, yeah.
She knew the drill. But Kelsey had never had one. And she's trying to get psyched up, Kelsey, for it. And Kelsey's right across from you. This is off camera. And Corbin's right across from me. And as soon as Kelsey took it, it was like a dart hit her right in the head. And I love Corbin's reaction because she's done it before. She goes, "It's okay. It'll be over soon." Super serious.
Yeah.
It was serious. She goes, "It's okay. It'll be over soon." I'm like, all right.
I think Kelsey was worried it was going to be like if you have like really spicy food and it lingers and you have to like chug a thing of milk. It's not like that.
Or deal with it the next 7 hours.
Yeah, like it hits you and then it goes away.
Yeah.
And you get some more. It's normally how it goes.
I love this stuff.
Hilarious.
I'd go right back tonight if I could.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the Combine. Now, this week is a little bit of a calm between the two storms because this is, we're calling it tags, trades, and practical analytics because we'll have one of our favorite humans on with us later in this podcast, and it's Cynthia Frelund, who is a brilliant analyst of the National Football League. She was one of the first to really use applied analytics. She has 2 master's degrees from Northwestern, but then it's kind of morphed on. Her approach to analytics to me is the way that football should do it. And so we'll get into that in a second. But you're going to enjoy that part of it. But before we do anything, let's go around the world.
Yep. Got 3 today.
Okay.
We've been pretty solidly getting like 3 a week lately. The Jan Stenerud.
Yeah. Stay with Jan.
Yep, in honor of Jan. Jordan and Max are in Dunedin, New Zealand.
Nice.
Probably mispronouncing that, but wherever that is sounds like an amazing place. I need to go to New Zealand. They watch every game on Monday mornings, which I think is fun. Shout out to Enrique in Bloomington, Minnesota. Pretty sure we've heard from Enrique before. Mm-hmm. And then Jimmy is in Basehor, Kansas.
Basehor, yeah.
Had a few of those lately.
Yep.
Although he works on the Missouri side, about 5 minutes from the stadium. He's a Rapec grad and an alum of Wichita State. Go Shockers.
Wow, this dude's all over the place.
Yeah, sure is.
He's living in Basehor, home of the Basehor Linwood Bobcats, an emerging 5A power in Kansas, but he works near the stadium.
Yep. But went to Rapec.
Went to Rapec Panthers, and then he was a Wichita State Shocker.
Yeah. Just hitting the whole region,
Black and gold, green and gold. So there's something about gold.
Okay.
But anyway.
And the Chiefs, red and gold.
And then the fun thing, and some of you saw it on social, on X was when we're walking back. Was that day 2? We're going,
I lost all track of the days.
And
when
it's
we were
Andy.
there.
And it's Andy, or was it day 1? Maybe we're walking the long track back to the hotel from our vantage point.
Yeah, that was day 1. That was day one. Yeah.
Okay, so we're kind of tired, and it's just us, our crew, and all of a sudden it's Andy. Right? He appears. Do you remember the town he's from? It's north of London.
I might have wrote it down. Hold on.
Okay.
Bear with me.
But anyway, we're just walking, just hobbity, trying to get back and maybe go get a bite to eat. And this guy just appears in front of us, and it's like this moment where the light just shines on him, and he goes, "Oh my God, it's you guys! It's you guys! It's you!" This guy's a huge fan.
I think he's from London.
Oh, he is from
I
London?
wrote down
In the city. Okay.
Andy from London at the
Andy
Combine.
from London. Okay.
Yeah.
So Andy from London sees this, and he's like, "Oh my God, it's you guys!" It's like it was crazy.
Yeah, he was awesome. He was so excited.
Love that guy.
Because he mentioned he was in Indianapolis for like a convention, as one does in Indianapolis. It's like the convention mecca. But he knew the NFL Combine was going on. He's a Chiefs fan, and he thought, what if I just walked over to the convention area? Maybe I'll run into somebody. And he was freaking out. Like, what were the odds? It was great. A super cool guy, big Chiefs fan. It was awesome.
Shout out to Andy. He works for Eli Lilly. That's why he was in Indianapolis, but representing us in the United Kingdom. So way to go, my brother.
Let's go.
Okay, trades, tags, and practical analytics is where we're at today. It is always kind of fun, but now kind of being a veteran of this like you and I are, when the season ends, people look at the free agent list and they're like, oh my gosh, look at this. Can we get this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy? And it's just hit the brakes for a second, because this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy probably won't be available. They're either going to be tagged or extended. But and again, as we post this is a fast-moving world right now.
Yeah.
From now till about
lots of things
the
could
draft, within seconds. But honestly, this is the 3rd of March, I think, that we're posting this. But Breece Hall was tagged by the New York Jets. And, of course, Breece Hall, Wichita Northwest Grizzly, by the way, played high school football in the Chiefs Kingdom, played college ball in the Chiefs Kingdom in the northern regions when he was a star at Iowa State. But Chiefs fans were going nuts about getting Breece Hall. Could you trade for Breece Hall? Could we get Breece Hall in free agency? Breece Hall is now tagged as a Jets running back.
It's really interesting to follow the landscape of who will be available. So one person we caught up with at the Combine was Tim Terry, who's in charge of the Chiefs' pro personnel department. And I think we'll post that interview maybe in a week or so when free agency is in full swing. But I asked him about kind of preparing for the landscape, because you want to be ready for the opportunities ahead of you in terms of free agents. But truly, until you get to next week, you don't know for sure who's going to be available. So many things can happen. I think players become available maybe you didn't think would be available. You just follow Adam Schefter. He'll say so-and-so all of a sudden is seeking his release or whatever it may be. That came out of nowhere. But also, the players that get tagged, the players that get extended. You don't know if a player is playing hardball with a team and he's going to end up staying there. I could go on and on. You don't actually know who's going to be available until you get there. So you have to have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. And really, one thing I've been talking about a lot lately is you want to use free agency, not necessarily spending a ton of money and investing in only a few players, but you want to spend free agency and use it as a chance to prepare your roster for the draft, because you don't want to go into the draft having to take a certain position. We desperately need blank in the draft. Not a good way to live, because on one end, you're not going to end up taking the best players available. And on the other, you don't know if the players that you're hoping that you get are even going to be there in the draft. So a big opportunity for the Chiefs in free agency coming up. I don't know if they'll make a big splash. Maybe they will, but either way, got to find a way to get some good players in here through the free agent process to make sure we can go best player available in the draft.
Yeah, a couple other tags here that are noteworthy. George Pickens, who maybe had his best game of the year, maybe the last 2 years against the Chiefs on Thanksgiving as a Cowboy wide receiver. There was some thought maybe he's a free agent, go get George. He was tagged by the Cowboys. And then Kyle Pitts. And there was some Chiefs discussion, at least from fans, right, that, go get Kyle Pitts, who would be a nice veteran if Kels comes back, that he could help Kels out, or maybe help fill the void if Kels doesn't come back. But Kyle Pitts has also been tagged by the Falcons.
I don't know what the tag number is for tight ends, but that feels like a lot of money for Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, but that's what they've done.
Yeah.
And that's where you got to be tricky or really careful with the tags.
So the one thing I don't like about the tags, and I could be wrong about this, but my understanding in how they do positions is I think it's all offensive linemen are one tag number, right?
Yeah.
And then linebacker. So linebacker and defensive end, which is a really archaic way of looking at football, you're either like a inside linebacker or you're an edge to me. And like Micah Parsons and Fred Warner are different positions, but they're both linebackers, and the tag doesn't treat it that way. I don't know. That bothers me.
Or some will have a DE thinking that they're an interior defensive lineman. So
Yeah.
part of a 4-3-3-4. So then they're lumped in with the DLs, and they're going, well, isn't he really a DE? And then you're looking at linebacker, go, isn't he really an edge? It's kind of a DE. And so, honestly, I think as the collective bargaining agreement gets like moved and shaken up a little bit, and in the years ahead, because we talked about it at the Combine in last week's episode, you put a letter by a guy like Caleb Downs, to put an S by him totally limits who that dude is.
Yeah.
But the league has to see it, or the PA, or the league and the PA together has to see a letter by a guy. And then that becomes, and your point's really well taken, that becomes really problematic when you get to the tag number.
Well, I think someone was saying this a few days ago, like Nick Imamori, who is a safety, very good player for the Seahawks. I think he played like 10 actual snaps at traditional safety last year because he was playing slot corner, box safety, basically extra linebacker, all that stuff. Like, he's not a safety. Like, he can play safety, but he's not just a safety. And that's where it gets tricky with the tag for sure.
Yeah, an S. Wait a minute. That just really defined him. So those are the most noteworthy tags. And then there have been some trades. The David Montgomery trade is an interesting one because the Houston Texans in the AFC always get your attention. So the Lions trade David Montgomery to the Houston Texans. Again, a little bit of a Chiefs tie-in because he was such a great running back at Iowa State. He's also a fan of Matt Nagy. They were together with the Bears. But that was a trade that was like, oh, that one's got some significance.
And you never know what Brett Veach might find on the landscape. If we're looking for a running back, there's obviously some interesting names out there in free agency. But, I mean, I wasn't aware David Montgomery was going to be available, right? And who knows what players might be available in the coming weeks. You know what trades this time of year always remind me of, though? Because the way it works is the league year begins on March 11th. Technically, nothing's official until March 11th. So David Montgomery has not been traded technically, even though it's been all agreed to. And when we traded Alex Smith way back in 2018,
I remember that.
It happened like in early February, but we couldn't talk about it or reference it or do anything with it until the league year began in early March because technically he hadn't been traded until the league year began. It's a difficult position to be in when you work on the team side and your quarterback's been traded and you cannot discuss it.
We sat on that for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many shows I was on and got asked every time, and you're like, can't tell you. I don't know. It's not official.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Not sure. Yeah. Wow. I'm not Senator. I'm not sure. I don't recall that. So anyway, yeah. But you're right. It's there, and supposedly both teams have agreed to it. And you think, what does that mean to the Chiefs? Well, yeah, hang on here, because if we're in the running back market in the free agency, and Houston would have been involved in the running back market in free agency, they got David Montgomery, so now they're probably not going to be involved as much in the running back market in free agency. So each one of these deals, I know you and I look at it through the lens of the Chiefs, and sometimes it might be 3 degrees or 5 degrees removed, or sometimes it's right there close to the nucleus of the atom. And so this one was one that caught my attention. There were some others. Titus Howard goes to Cleveland as Houston then gets some extra picks. That could affect things for the Chiefs as you get closer to that 74th pick and beyond in the rounds 5 and 6. Also, let's see, the other trades that was happening. The Jets traded with Jermaine Johnson. They get the Sweat. Trevondre Sweat goes to the Jets. Jermaine Johnson goes to the Titans. So here again, if you're looking at defensive linemen, you're thinking, well, that may take 2 teams and change their strategy going into free agency and the draft.
Yeah, it definitely could. It's funny, though, when I hear some of these names because we go so hard into the draft this time of year every year. And players like Jermaine Johnson and Trevondre Sweat, I just think about all the draft stuff we did on them. And then if I'm being honest, like particularly we're not playing the Jets that often or the Titans, and those two teams haven't been very good, so they haven't really been in the conversation with us. I'm not really thinking about them much. I forget about those names. you know?
Set them aside.
I set them aside. I completely forget about them, and they pop back up, and I'm like, oh, yeah, Tavondre Sweat and Jermaine Johnson. I like both those players quite a bit. Both been pretty good as far as I know. But, you know, a change of scenery can often help guys, and we'll see how they do.
And some re-signs, basically some extensions or keeping a guy around before they would hit the free agent market. And Nick Allegretti, our old friend, has made an impact with the Washington Commanders like he did here, but he's re-signed to an extension, so give him some credit there. Javonte Williams is one that gets your attention because a running back that, you know, fans will go, ooh, that looked nice in a Chiefs uniform. He re-signed with the Dallas Cowboys. Tier Tart, not Deshaun Hand, with the Chargers, but then Dalton Reisner, who was the K-State star and was a almost immediate starter for the Broncos, and he went to the Vikings. He has signed with the Bengals, or re-signed with them. So some local moves there that kind of catch your attention.
Yeah, really happy for Nick Allegretti. It's been fun to follow his whole journey. I remember when he was drafted in the 7th round from Illinois, and not sure what we had in him. Had to make the team, right? And to see how he became such a Swiss Army knife for us over the years, such a major part of those championship teams. Thinking about Joe Tooney tearing his pec against the Bills in the divisional round a couple years ago. I mean, that's a big, big deal. It's Joe Tooney, one of the best offensive linemen really in league history, if you think about it. And Nick Allegretti goes in there, doesn't miss a beat, leads his team to the Super Bowl. Happy for him. It's worked out in Washington and that he's sticking around there.
Yeah, great guy. University of Illinois, and happy for him. But one thing that gets close to home is the fact that he is just perfect, or was perfect here, in that 6th offensive line role, the tackle-over-tackle role, which has become more in vogue. It used to be you'd see it maybe once or twice a game. You know, they'd come in and wipe the jersey and go, 77's eligible, and now you're tackle-over-tackle. It has become the staple of many teams, including 2 in our division, in many ways with the Broncos and Chargers. It's coming now with regularity, and you're seeing teams start in it, stay in it, for a good portion of the game where if you're going to run and play action pass. So a guy like Nick Allegretti, or to find somebody like that, and maybe that's Jalen Moore. We'll see how this kind of works out throughout free agency and the draft. We talked about a right tackle festival. Now the league has kind of jumped on that. After the tackles worked out, after we had left.
Yeah.
Now you see how much tackle talk there is around the league?
Oh, yeah. Well, you see the athleticism of the tackles. I wrote this down. There's some kind of bonkers numbers about the tackles. So this offensive line group at the Combine was collectively, all at the same time, the tallest, heaviest, fastest, and highest jumping ever. It doesn't make any sense. They're just incredible, amazing athletes. Also, while we're on that, 7 different position groups set the all-time Combine record for its fastest average 40-yard dash. Defensive line, linebacker, DB, tight end, running back, wide receiver, and offensive line. It's nuts. These guys are like 330 pounds and running 40-yard dashes like receivers did in the 50s. Doesn't make sense.
People ask me, how was it? What I go, the level of athlete it is now playing in the National Football League is astonishing.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing. And when you and I were walking down the hallway and you see these guys, you're like, oh, my gosh. And just think about the time you've been in the league and you've seen how that's changed.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been almost exponential growth as far as the speed and the power. And it's the way these guys are training, the way that they have prepared themselves from going all the way back from when they were young. But it is phenomenal. But then you see somebody like a Daniel Jeremiah or Zerline, they're talking now like there could be 7 tackles taken in the first round. But these guys are right tackles generally. They're not a Josh Simmons left tackle type. Most of them, if you look at Mauanoa, you can go right down the line, and the fact that they're probably right tackles, at least starting there. And if the Chiefs would get a starting right tackle, Jalen Moore becomes the new Nick Allegretti. The other 4 we know could be, you already have a star. You have the best at his position in the league. You've got a guy that's proven he can play there, could be even a Pro Bowler, and Simmons could be a Pro Bowler. It could get real exciting if you get a tackle in this draft, even with a high pick.
And I'm still excited about Esapole as well as being one of those guys who can be a developmental player. a swing tackle, maybe a starter one day. We need to kind of cultivate that depth because that depth has been tested over the years. Definitely tested last year, late in the season when we just were down to our like fourth and fifth tackles at times. That's why I think, again, to get back to the best player available thing, for the Chiefs at 9, if one of those tackles is the best player available on their board, I'd be all for that because you're getting a top 10 right tackle on the draft that could be there for the next 10 years. You have your bookends set, like 2 blue chip bookends. I mean, I'd be fired up about that. Now, is that the direction they'll go? I don't know, but I really think that the Chiefs could go any which direction. Let's say they don't want to take a tackle, though. If one of those tackles is available, slides down to number 9, and Brett and the crew aren't super excited about a tackle, but a team 5 spots back is, well, now you can trade back. You're still in the middle of the first round, and you pick up an extra second or third round pick. That'd be great, too. So I think the offensive line stuff is nothing but a benefit for us. Either we're going to end up with one of these guys, and that's great, or some other team's really going to want one, and they'll trade up with us to go get him.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the draft. We've got weeks to go with this, but you saw Lance Zierlein's mock.
Yeah.
Because that was exactly his scenario. The Chiefs trade out of 9 and go down to 15 where the Jets are. The Jets really have control over this draft because we know Mendoza's going 1. But what are the Jets going to do at 2? That's going to be a big question mark because they can go up 100 different ways. But then they're also setting at the 15. And so they are strategically placed, let's say, for that scenario you just gave. It's not out of the realm of possibility that could happen.
Sure.
Chiefs drop down to 15, get extra pick, maybe the second round, and build some volume and value in the 26 class like they did with the 22 class.
And the third scenario is, let's say, like, right now I think we can agree probably at least 2 will go in the top 12. Well, what if like 3
You're talking tackles.
Yeah. What if 3 or 4 go? That pushes down a player that we all thought there's no way he'll fall to 9, and then you end up with a great player at 9 who you didn't think would fall to you. So, again, I think the offensive lineman doing so well is only a good thing for us. This draft for me is so much more fun compared to past drafts where last year, as we've talked about, like you and I wanted Josh Simmons. Josh Simmons seemed like the perfect guy. I mean, this is a player who is a top 15 caliber pick. We badly need a left tackle prospect. He's the guy. Will he fall to us? I don't know. I hope so. I hope he falls to us, and he did. That was great. But this draft is different where there's not just one player. I'm like, oh, man, I hope this guy falls to us. I really will be happy, I think, with any of the scenarios that we've talked about. And it sounds like basic and obvious, but we're going to end up with a really good player in this first round, and I'm excited about that.
The only 2 exceptions to that would be quarterback, where it looks like there's just Mendoza, and then Jeremiah Love, because I think at running back it maybe falls off after that. That's kind of the consensus that we got, that most of you have seen as Kingdom defenders coming out of the NFL Combine. Now we're going to pivot for the remainder of this podcast at one of your favorite topics of Kingdom Defenders, and that is analytics. Oh, boy, analytics. And we love analytics. I love analytics. You love them, too.
Yeah, valuable.
But, honestly, it's not all just quantitative analysis. It's not mathematics. So we put a number by, all respect to Pro Football Focus. They think your performance in this podcast was a 90.2.
Wow.
And mine was a 79.8.
I disagree.
Okay. The point is, we just put a number on something that's subjective.
Yeah.
So we think it's Euclid in doing geometry in 300 BC. If we're going to prove a postulate, that actually is something that's exact. If we're going to, in an algebraic equation and it's mathematics, we can solve that. But when it comes to the game of football, there is this blend or this mixture of quantitative and qualitative analysis that has to happen. So now we're watching a game and we'll see 3rd and 2. What's the decision? 83%? Go. On 3rd down and 2, go. And if you make it, the chance to win the game is now 62.62%. Well, are those numbers taking into account the team that you're playing, the weather? Because, again, the biggest play of this entire NFL season was Denver's 4th and 1, not kicking the field goal and not making it. And instead of taking a 10-0 game, which probably would have won that game, with the snowstorm coming off the Donner Pass and heading in off the front range of the Rockies, it's 7-0. And when it happened, I go, New England's got a shot in this game. So what analytics told you to go for it there? And so the number comes up, right? 4th and 1, go for it, because 82.6% of the time it should make it. And if you get it, you're going to win 93.22% of the time. Did those numbers take into account a snowstorm blowing in off the Rockies in like 30 minutes?
Yeah, what are your inputs for the data? Because at the end of the day, analytics over the last like 15 years has become like almost like the scary word in some circles.
It's like AI.
Yeah, it's just kind of scary. But really what it is it is just giving you more information to help you make better decisions. Now, if the way you're getting that information is broken or incomplete, it's not going to give you the best options and the best advice on those decisions. And I'm with you on a 4th down decision. Yeah, maybe in a perfect world vacuum, you get that 80% of the time and it helps you win 95% of the time. But how often is there a snowstorm coming in? How often do you have a quarterback under center who has like 10 career starts and is playing in his first game of the season? Like, what are all those inputs included? And the answer is no. So I think what Cynthia did a great job of talking about, which we'll play in a minute, is kind of blending analytics and numbers and data that help you make informed decisions and understanding the landscape of the situation that you're in, understanding the people on your team, the situation, just all that stuff. It really is important, and you have to blend it together because sports do not take place in a vacuum. Sports don't take place in a lab or in a computer. That information is really helpful, but you have to know what your situation is that you're in the middle of. And I think sometimes that gets lost, which, then makes the analytics not as useful. The thing with the PFF numbers is that's like incomplete data to me. I think PFF is really useful for things like pressures, stuff like that, tabulating where a player is on the field. How many slot snaps does he have? How successful is he out of the slot in terms of catching the ball? But those are objective. The subjective stuff is with the grades is difficult because the person grading it does not know the intentions or the assignment of the players. It's kind of like if I was grading your radio broadcasts without knowing what you were trying to do with your broadcast, who was in your ear, who was chatting with you, what was going into that broadcast. Like, how can I fully have an idea of how I can grade your performance? I can't. So I think their stuff is useful. I look at it, but I think it's incomplete, and I think that's part of this conversation as well.
And people get a little bit sensitive. We're not against analytics. No. We're not against it at all. We analyze data the whole year. We're looking at all kinds of data. However, in football, the data is not the end-all, be-all. And sometimes Elmer Wordwhistle, who's the analytics director, will get a little bit, they get a little bit thin-skinned of
Elmer Wordwhistle?
Elmer Wordwhistle. He's a profound analytics expert of the NFL.
Okay. But
they look at it like Pythagoras. Okay? No, you got to take into account everything here. And even if my 3rd down, when you look at, hey, this team's really good on 3rd down, this team's really good on 4th down. We were awesome last year on 4th down. You have to then enter the data of the opponent because that 4th down efficiency or the 3rd down efficiency or 3rd and short, is it 3rd and 6 or less? Is it 3rd and 6 or more? That has to be morphed into the data of the opponent when you go into trying to make your decision box. And then, oh, wait a minute, how much time is there on the clock? What's the nature of the game? Who has momentum at that point? Which is real. It's super real. And so we've seen it, work for the Chiefs and work against the Chiefs.
Look at last season and try telling me momentum is not real. It's real.
So that's where a guy like Coach Reed, a leader like Coach Reed, has to weigh all those factors. But just know this, it is not mathematics. It's not Pythagoras. It's not Euclid. It is something that is a blend of the two. And so just to say analytics is it, I'll throw it in there, or do they use analytics or not? Yeah, to an extent, but it's not an end-all, be-all. That is why you and I both respect Cynthia Frelund. I think she's brilliant. Now, there are some women that when they talk, I stop everything. One is my wife.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You freeze. Like, okay, what's she want? 2 was my mom. I lost her in 2016, but I'd pay attention better later in life than in adolescence. But another Cynthia Frelund. when I hear her,
Those three.
when it's a podcast, or I hear her, she's a guest on our radio show, I'm now tuned in.
Yeah.
Because what she has to say is usually gold. And I love the way that, and she, again, was a pioneer in analytics as it relates to the National Football League. She had a master's degree, MBA, from the Kellogg School at Northwestern, very prestigious business school, undergrad at Boston College. But then she got an additional master's degree at Northwestern in, I think, practical analytics. I think that's what it's called. So the point is, not practical analytics, but it's something like that. It's just that, hey, numbers, you got to take the numbers into account with everything else. I just think she's awesome. And there's a lot of wisdom in that lady.
I think it's cool that she built her own model for to figure these things out. And she'll talk about it on NFL Network all the time. But yeah, she's brilliant. She's super cool. And like we were saying earlier, she blends together the circumstances of a situation with her data. And I think that's super important.
And her mom's a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, she is. We learned that. Her mom was a Chiefs fan. I can't remember if we talked about it in the interview, but after the fact, she had Mitch send a video of him doing the touchdown Kansas City and said that her mom was going to freak out. It was great.
I think it's Marianne. Is that the mom's name?
Marianne, yeah.
Marianne lives in Arizona now, card-carrying, red-blooded
Let's go.
Chiefs Kingdom fan, flies the flag.
One of us.
Love it. We also love Cynthia Frelund. Enjoy this interview and soak it in. Wow, are we in for a treat right now? Every time I listen to her, see her, there's just great information. Cynthia Frelund is with us now. Just fantastic in the way she covers the National Football League, and kind of welcome to the Chiefs Kingdom.
I love this. I told you, my mom's a big fan. We've talked about this, but it's hilarious. But I'm a big Brett Veach fan.
Okay.
I feel like I've known Brett Veach for quite a few years now, and I've just been in awe of how, I feel like how he's grown up. Like, I think he might be older than me, but, but ultimately, like, how he's really grown into the position and become, like, this awesome exec. Not that he wasn't before, but, it's just incredible to be part of such a dynasty and see your friend succeed. There's almost nothing cooler than your friends being like, wow, he's, like, kicking some butt. It's great.
He's phenomenal.
Bunch of rings,
Yeah,
and
he's
more to
funny,
come,
as you know. He's hilarious, but he's great for the league, I think, and the way he approaches it. So are you.
Thank you.
But I want to ask you, because there's so many analytics now. You were a pioneer in it.
Oh, thanks.
But what I'm learning is
Got yelled at a lot.
I listen to everything you have just because it's practical analytics. To me, in the league right now, Cynthia, there's so many. There's analytics, but a lot of it's just garbage.
That's right.
What have you found out to be really, really, with your degree and 2 master's degrees, one in predictive analytics?
Still paying for those.
Practical analytics.
Well, here's the thing. If you create a framework, then you can see whether it works or not. You can see what went right or what went wrong. So now we have a lot of different ways to measure things. So if I have a genius head coach and a genius GM, and we're going to say, all right, let's just throw out a scenario. We need maybe some O-line help, just throw out a scenario. And it's like, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to play a compressed formation, which we've seen for several years? Or do I want to go back to when Tyreek Hill was here, and do we want to play a really wide formation? I don't know. I'm not making that decision. We'll let, a first ballot Hall of Famer, when he does, we'll let him make that decision, and then let's try to fill those pieces. So let's create a structure. All right, let's just pretend we want to go back to a wide formation. I'm just making things up, right? I need a guard then who is really nimble left and right. The lateral movement needs to be absolutely accounted for. Great. I also, because the Chiefs really value speed, I need a guy who maybe has a quicker reflexes than most. I can't sacrifice that. So what is it that I'm looking for, and how do I select for those right attributes? Now, if I have a good system and it still doesn't go right, then at least you can kind of see where your flawed logic went wrong. But we now have a lot of data to create the right system. The data in and of itself is all a bunch of noise. But if you create the right structure and framework to kind of test your hypothesis, and if you know what you're looking for, God forbid, and you don't get swayed by, oh, the shiny object over here, squirrel, right? None of that. If you can stay true to what your principles are, that's when you have a really successful team. And if you have Patrick, it really helps.
That helps too.
Really helps.
In terms of your journey, when did it click for you that this is the kind of path you wanted to go down, the sports analytics?
Life's like very weird and how it chooses you in certain ways. I just found that I had like an exceptional amount of, I'm not a patient person by nature, but I had an exceptional amount of patience for being wrong, telling these stories with data, and being wrong when people would, I didn't mind when people would like yell at me and tell me I didn't know anything. Like, I wasn't like, screw you, but I didn't get like activated. I was just like, okay, well, that's actually good information they're telling me about what they think. And if they want to get mad about it, that's like their problem, right? So, but I had an exceptional amount of like, it just felt right.
Yeah.
It just felt like, okay, I can understand this, and here's how it can help. Let's not oversell it. But if you think about it, if you could be 10% better every game, that's 1.7 games a season.
Yeah.
That's often, okay, for other teams, that's often like going to the playoffs or not. Chiefs usually are like at 13 wins, so like whatever. But ultimately, for many teams, look at the freaking NFC South. 1.7 games would have been
the difference.
Huge.
Yeah.
Dominating.
Dominating. but the difference is like just be 10% better every time. Don't be. It's not a solve everything. It's not like people are like, oh, AI is coming to like steal your job. Some jobs, yes, but we've got 11 men on each side coming at each other every time. Let's make the game healthier. Let's make the strategy better. I want my best strategy versus your best strategy, and I want it with my healthy players.
Yeah.
Like, who doesn't want that? I'll wait.
Yeah, right.
And this is why, and I'm not trying to flatter you, why your stuff is so good compared to other things. Because we'll see, I can put a subjective number on something, and then people think, oh my gosh, that's an analytic. No, it's just my opinion.
Right.
So it's not the Pythagorean theorem. And here's one I want to ask you about. It's the whole third down, fourth down phenomenon.
Yep.
It's a phenomenon. And yet we saw at the seminal moment a fourth down non-conversion turned into a nuclear explosion. What about that and the quantitative versus qualitative analysis?
Sure. So there's a couple of things involved that I will never know as an outsider, right? I never know if on the last play my right tackle got smoked and his right arm's like a little tiny victim, right? Like, I don't know that because I can't see that. He's going to put his arm down because he's a professional and he's going to look like he's totally fine.
Sure.
But I don't know that as an outsider. I don't know, do I have the right play call against this defense, and does everyone understand the assignment? I don't know any of that stuff. I can make a great plan. Like, the Lions were for many years, and I'm from Michigan, so I'm a Lions fan. Dan Campbell, he made what some analytics people would have said were stupid fourth down decisions, but that was their identity. They practiced it. They were told to do this. This is the play against the. You see this type of zone. This is what we're doing. Okay, my signal's there. I'm going to go with it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the best decision, but that was the assignment, and they did it. Right? Okay, like that's fair. Right? But it doesn't mean like I think people have conflated like what the analytics would say to do with. Because on TV it sounds like this overlord, like the analytics say, but just so everyone here knows, it's like ESPN has their own model, NFL has their own model, Cynthia has her own model, the Chiefs have their own model, the Lions have their. It's like there are so many different models, and what does it say? Well, and by the way, you can also make the contrarian decision. You're still a human. They're not a robot like deciding this. You just should know where you're giving yourself better odds and know when you're making that. It's all about knowledge. It's not about changing your decisions. It's about saying like, all right, well, in an objective situation, when I have a neutral, I'm not activated, it's not the heat of the moment of the game, when my amygdala isn't hijacked, this is what I would decide. You can still choose to make the other decision or not. So I don't know what the play was called, because a lot of it has to come down to like, do you have the right play? Does everyone know that play? Because I know that sounds stupid to say, but sometimes we don't know the play.
And you got to execute.
You're right.
Yeah.
And then you have to do it.
Yeah.
So there's analytics in game, like we're talking about, but like you touched on earlier, also analytics with team building.
Yes.
We're talking about the draft right now.
That's my favorite one.
We're talking about free agency.
Yep.
How do some of your models apply to the team building process of this time of year?
This is the most bananas. This one's because I strongly hate the transfer portal. I think it's the stupidest thing we've ever come up with. There needs to be somewhere in between what it used to be back in my day when you had to sit out a full year and then like this willy-nilly. Like, if you sign a contract for that much NIL money, you're an adult. You should have to stay. I don't know. Whatever. Maybe I'm old.
No, I'm with you.
Get off my
We
lawn.
talk about this a lot.
Get
Yeah.
off
It's a
my
3-0
lawn.
vote, yeah.
Okay, perfect. But there has to be some continuity. Like,
Yeah.
I'm an adult. I sign a contract. I can't just be like, hey, I'm going to go do something else now. Right? Like, no. So, but one of the consequences of that is playbooks have shrunk. So you may have the scouting department may say, well, this is how they handle being on a new team, or this is how they handle money. Okay, that's interesting to know, but how do they play football? Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. Like, find me a pulling guard. I'll wait. Like, but you know why? Because their quarterback changes, their running back changes, and their wide receiver changes. So why would they can't get that far.
Yeah.
And so it's very tricky to evaluate. And by the way, now they're crazy different ages. Like 25 or 20. Same position. And you're like, well, Brett would never, the 25-year-old's never going to be a Chief. Just so you know.
Well,
We've talked about how like
We've had
Akeem
we've
Mesidor
had
is
some
older than
discussion.
George Karlaftis.
yeah.
You know, it's nuts.
And he's played 4 years.
Yeah.
Right.
You're speaking to the choir here. You're dead on.
So that's why this year it's more about whose philosophy and who can stay true to it.
Sure.
And it's caused somewhat of a chaotic approach or
Total.
Yeah, and
chaos.
looking at really what's the analysis. So the free agency market,
Yep.
as we pivot from here,
Yep.
and I've said it's those first days and the illegal tampering, which is still
Why don't we
somewhat
just
bizarre
call
to me.
it like free agency starts on March 9th?
Yeah.
But then somebody on the 8th would
Exactly.
do some. But it's the Friday after Thanksgiving where everybody goes to shop and spend way more than they should on things. So analytics as it pertains to free agency
Yep.
and this specific 2026 free agent market.
Well, the good news is you don't need a quarterback because I think this is going to be a wild free agency for quarterbacks. I think Kyler Murray is going to get some crazy deal somewhere. I think Malik Willis is going to get a crazy deal. I think there's going to be some talk about Mac Jones and are they going to give him a second for Mac Jones? Like, what's going on? And that's going to cause a lot of ripple effects, except for the Raiders who have $1 billion in that they need to spend, and they're getting Fernando Mendoza. So they're going to buy up a lot of assets. You'd think. I feel like they have to. I think they're like under. Anyways, but ultimately, I think they're like under the floor right now. Like they actually have to spend money. But ultimately, I think what you'll see here is the first wave is going to be wild from like a media perspective. But I think just like most years, it's going to be those guys that go a little bit later. What maybe like the second wave that are going to be more impact players. Just because we're going to see some splashy. I think it's going to be fun to watch from an outsider point of view, but. If you didn't need a quarterback in your team, I mean, who's going to win the Malik Willis lottery? Is it going to be, Mike LaFleur, Matt's brother, or is it going to go down to Jeff Hafley? I mean, they're all coming from that Packers tree, so they're very familiar with him. So you'd think at least. But point being is, I think we're going to. Good news for the Chiefs. I think you'll be able to get some deals on some non-quarterback pickups.
Good, because we need some stuff.
You definitely need some stuff. but everyone needs some stuff.
Yeah.
And I think most people would give up, a lot to be in a position of the Chiefs. Just that guy, 15. Just saying.
Makes life a little bit easier,
Yeah. That was the number one thing of the draft or the combine that I think is so funny. The year after Patrick became the starter, everyone was like, I had a number one grade on him. I'm like, did you?
Yeah.
Everybody
loves him now.
Everybody.
Yeah.
I was like, seems like you did because you didn't take him.
We have the receipts of the people that said stuff like at the combine that year, like on the radio saying like, "Oh, this guy's not any good." Okay.
Footwork.
All right, yeah.
Yep.
Amazing. I'm just dying to ask you this question.
Do it.
And Matt knows. And every week, Cynthia, and I'm getting ready to prep who our opponent is going to be. I'm going, wow, this league is changing, and it's changing to 8 of the top 9 teams in time of possession were in the
Yep.
playoffs. Teams were looking not to score, but to control,
Yep.
and then to score. It was our whole season. We couldn't get teams off the field, and they just controlled every game.
Yep.
What have you noticed there analytically, and how long could this cycle be?
I think we'll probably see a reversion pretty soon because I think what happened was the strategy this year was to emulate what ultimately the Seahawks were doing, which was rushing with 4 and dropping guys back in coverage. Now, it really works a lot better if you have like Nicky Manwari, who he's like kind of a safety. I've like put up the quotes there because like he played like 12 snaps at true safety, and like the rest were like nickel, linebacker, roaming roamer, like whatever the position is. But point is it doesn't work.
Caleb
every time.
Downs looks like maybe
I
that guy.
love Caleb.
So do we.
Caleb
So do we.
Downs.
For that
Yeah.
exact reason.
Yeah, but I think what happened was they pulled everyone off coverage, but that only works if you got like a Nicky Manwari who can come in and stop the run.
Sure.
But a lot of guys pulled. There was tons of dime, nickel, like tons of multiple defensive back sets and weird fronts. So what did people do? They ran. They ran the football. They just kept running it. And the teams, and they actually ran on the inside. There was like almost no, like not almost no, but far less outside zone rushing than we'd seen in many, many years. But there'll be a reversion.
Okay.
Because you pull all those guys off, it's going to be like that's what Bo Nix did was screen pass city. It was like 10 billion screen passes.
And bubbles and tunnels.
Yeah.
And,
It was like, do you want to throw the ball for 3 yards? Sure, why not? I'm here. Let's do it. Like,
Or
but,
5 wide. It's 5 wide. Hey, we're 5 wide. You better go dime. And then I'm going
Right.
to throw a 3-yard hook route.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it worked.
Yeah. It
And
worked.
you know what? It would have kept working had he not blown out his ankle. Like I think that they would have been able to. I don't know. I mean, I'm no shade to their. Jarrett Stidham's a nice kid, but that was kind of a. It was an interesting strategy against.
We're Chiefs fans. We don't like the Broncos. It's okay. Yeah.
No, but yeah, I'm just talking about the strategy. Just talking about the
No,
strategy.
the league changed, and no
Yep.
one really talked about it. You kind of alluded to it, but every week I'm going through it. I was telling Matt, I'm like, oh my gosh, this league
I
has
think
done a
outside
180.
zone rushing will come back this year.
You do? Okay.
I mean, again, it never fully went away, but I think you'll see more of that now because a lot of the guys now, like, now that does suppose that some of these new tackles can set an edge.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question right there. But assuming that happens, I think like the Jahmyr Gibbs of it all. That's kind of what I think I think Jahmyr Gibbs and James Cook. I think you're going to see both of them catch a ton of passes this year, and then I think you're going to see them run outside more after that because you pull so many guys back into coverage. You just create some space. Good thing you have 87. I hope he comes back. So I think he's coming back. I think he's coming back.
You're awesome.
Oh, you're awesome.
Your stuff's awesome.
I before we started, I shut my eyes and made him do a touchdown Chiefs for me because when you're with a legend, you don't miss that opportunity. And it was so good. I had to close my eyes though because then I was in the moment.
Well, God bless your mom,
Yes, my mom.
who's now a card-carrying, red-blooded member of the Chiefs
does.
kingdom.
Let's go.
A flag every game.
Let's go.
She's like, nobody touches Patrick. Nobody. I was like, just
Yours-
met him for 3 minutes. That's all. All it took 3 minutes. Marianne Freeland loves him.
She didn't like the Chargers much then, I'm
Not at
guessing.
all.
Okay.
No,
One
she
of
doesn't
us.
like. No.
Yeah.
She told me the other day. Oh God, what did she say to me? I used to do preseason for the Bills. She's like, and I now do preseason for the Broncos. She's like, I can't watch any of your preseason games. I'm like, Mom. And she's like, absolutely not. She's like, you are. She's like, you're a traitor. I'm like, I'm not a traitor. I'm
come
like,
on.
they pay me.
Yeah, I'm trying to pay my bills, Mom.
It's just like traitor.
One of us. Well, Kimmy Chex does our preseason.
I know.
We'll get you on with us
I
sometime.
love Kimmy
She's the best, isn't she?
Kimmy's one of my favorites,
Yeah.
like of all time that I've worked with.
Yeah, she's the best.
Yeah. So, but my mom's like, traitor.
One of our favorites. When she talks, we listen.
Yes, we do.
Because her stuff is really good.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Excellent work there. Every word she had, I was just like riveted on every word.
Yeah, it was awesome. And the perfect tag for that for me was we shot that on Thursday and we headed to the airport a few hours later. You happen to see who I was sitting next to on the flight back?
I did not.
It
was Mike Frazier.
Yeah, I was sitting next to Mike
Yeah,
Frazier, which is the best. So Mike Frazier has been with Coach Reed for like over 20 years, and he is Coach Reed's analytics guy.
The original Elmer Ward whistle.
Yeah, and he's really good at what he does. And I think it's so cool because think about the world that we live in right now with numbers and data and everything. He was doing this, but like in 2004.
Yeah.
Before it was really popular in the NFL, before a lot of teams were doing it. He was digging up numbers on, hey, this team on 3rd and 3 in the fourth quarter does this more often and stuff like that, and helps inform Coach Reed on these things. And I was sitting next to him on the flight home, and I try not to bother him too much, but it's like, hey, Mike, you want to talk about numbers and data and the Chiefs? It was pretty cool. Awesome guy.
Yeah, he's terrific and a big part of winning here in the Chiefs Kingdom. But, yeah, we love Frage, and ahead of his time, we also love Cynthia Frelund and what she does, and we all pay attention. Okay, next week, now just get ready. It's the opening bell of the New York Stock Exchange. It is the frenzy and frantic world of free agency. It goes berserk. It literally, the train goes off the track next week because it's crazy. Stuff is happening in 10-minute increments. And it's just, you're just looking up at the stock market and going, wow, it's going crazy. Then it slows down, and then there's like this second period. But we'll get you, well, we'll actually kind of be in the middle of it or the start of it next week when we post it.
I have no doubt we'll shoot a podcast next week, and we'll talk about, not a lot's happened, and then we'll sign someone as we're about to post it, and we just won't have any commentary on it in the episode that posts.
It'll be dated within like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Just bear with us.
That's how it goes.
Just, feel our pain here.
Yeah, it's not easy. A few housekeeping things. So the Chiefs have kind of already started. We've signed 10 players to reserve future contracts, which those are for players that were on like practice squads or whatever as the year last year ended, but not on an active roster. And the Chiefs can sign those players, many of which were on our own practice squad, and they can't sign elsewhere, even though they're not like active contracts yet. Not super exciting. Those don't get a lot of fanfare. But for example, Tyquan Thornton was a reserve future contract last year. Every once in a while, these guys that sign these reserve future deals end up making an impact. So if you're interested in who the Chiefs signed to reserve future deals this year, it's on Chiefs.com. I wrote an article on it. Jason Brownlee is one of them. Might remember him from earlier in the year. A handful of guys that were on the practice squad at the end of the season are back on reserve future deals. We have 23 players slated to be unrestricted free agents.
Yeah.
And some big names on that list. Mm-hmm. So in the coming days, we'll see if we're able to re-sign some of these guys. Maybe a lot of them will hit the market and we'll bring them back still. We'll see. But a lot going on. Got to see which players we bring back and which players out there on the market we decide to bring in here. But like we've talked about, if the Chiefs don't have a huge splash, that doesn't mean they're not going to do some things. And we've seen like that second weekend, year in and year out, the Chiefs like win on that second weekend, bringing in players that maybe were undervalued on the market, but come in here and make an impact.
And the first couple of days is when you have to be careful because then a year later, 2 years later, you're like, oh, man, why'd we do that deal?
Yeah.
And you got cap problems. Cynthia kind of laid that out. And then she goes, then there's like the Raiders who have to spend like $100 million. They're under the floor, right? So they're going to be throwing cash around all over the place. The Chiefs aren't in that position. And there have been moves made. You can follow those to get some cap relief. And so those are very apparent and have to be ready to go for the Chiefs to get into this to start the NFL year. But the value that you get in some of the later free agent signings, we have seen that build winning teams. At the end of last year's regular season, though, it was on my Minute with Mitch that runs in linear television, 9 different markets, but I kind of said a goodbye to the class of 2022. This is when it's going to hit hard. There will be some of that class that will still be here. It is such a remarkable class where there were, counting free agents, 9 to 10 guys that were still on the team 4 years later. This is when that line hits. It's the way the NFL is. You cannot keep all those guys. They've been phenomenal. They have won 2 Super Bowls. They went to another. And the fact that we can't keep all those guys. You were talking about the list of guys that's in that 24 will become free agents at the start of the year. A lot of 2022 on that. And it'll be sad to see some of them go.
I'm feeling old right now because I remember it feeling like yesterday we did the Base 10 episode. Remember that? We did a huge episode the Sunday after the draft in 2022 on those 10 players that we got. And we were talking all about the opportunity ahead of us. Like, man, this class could be a difference maker. This could be a class that's transformative, that keeps this run going. And looking back on it, we had more success after that class than we had before it. Like, I had no idea the kind of success that class could help us achieve. And, man, to think that was 4 years ago and all the wins and the moments, the playoff triumphs in the time since is pretty remarkable. Hard to find a class like that, but going into this draft, that's kind of, in my mind, the standard, right? We got to find a draft class like that. And the class of 2022 was pretty special. I hope we can keep some of those guys, but no matter what, wish them all the best.
Yeah, and Lord willing, we'll see those guys at reunions and give them all big hugs and remember those moments that you just recounted. But starting next week, we'll also see some of those guys go away, and that's just the way it is in the National Football League. It's a way of tags, trades, and practical analytics.